said. What I love about being a coach is the transformation and the time that you can do it. So I think about coaches is how do we collapse time and how do we as adults get really clear on what we want so that we can start going after that. And I feel like as adults, most of us just kind of stop. It's like in high school, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to get into this school. I picked chose the major. I got the job. I did the things. And then we're just kind of, I don't want to say coasting because we're not doing anything. We're working very hard, but it's not always very mindful.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Kevin, and today we're joined by Megan Akatu. She is the founder of Megan Akatu Coaching and Culture. Been a coach for about 2 years. Welcome to the podcast, Megan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. One of the things that we were talking about was like you came from a higher ed background and all that. So I would kind of love to hear the origin story, the lore of how you became a coach and what made you want to start your own business.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've worked in a whole bunch of different industries. I've been in healthcare, I've been in tech, I've been in hospitality, commercial real estate, and higher ed, and largely was often in sales or marketing roles. And so I was known to run high performing teams. And for me, that always felt like it was like a good mix of the data from like driving revenue and then the people side of engaging with others, working with my team, and always had a high trust culture. And then how I became a coach was, so a couple things happened at the same time. So I'd been at the same university at this point 7-ish years when COVID hit. And in that time also, which was very intense in higher ed. So we had decided to bring all the students back full time. So we all had 2 jobs. We had our regular job, we had our COVID job. I had 2 young kids. My husband was working at the same university. Was also working very long hours. And then I took a very significant DI role at that time. And so that was also the job that I wasn't being paid for and I loved. And so I really believe in human thriving. It was in those moments where creating conversations where a lot of trust was being had, a lot of questions were being asked, and I wasn't necessarily the one who had all the answers, but I could hold that space for people to heal, for people to learn, for people to come together within the organization. And then we get to May of 2021 and the students are now gone. The senior class graduated. It was a very, very intense 10 months to get to that. And I'm on this beautiful, beautiful retreat with the rest of the senior leaders within my organization. And we had these lovely yoga instructors with us. We had steel drums. We had amazing chefs. I mean, it was just gorgeous. And we were off in the woods journaling and my heart was thumping in my chest. And I was like, there is something seriously wrong right now. But I didn't have words for it. I didn't have language for it. And so really went on this journey and like in the fetal position in my bed being like, how did I get here? I have all these degrees. Like I've always been very successful. What is wrong with me? Through just in these moments, I was like, I think I could be a coach. But I honestly didn't even really know what that was. I just really just kind of heard it intuitively. And I was like, okay, well, then as like the universe has it, I see on social media, an acquaintance of mine had just posted that she was leaving her job on Facebook to become a coach. And I was like, I think I'm supposed to be doing this, but I don't know what this is. Like, tell me everything about it. And she was at the very end of her coaching school journey and had to start her practicum. And she was like, do you want to be in it? And I was like, absolutely. Yes, I will be one of your practicum people. And then from there on out, that was the only thing that I wanted to do. And I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to start my own business. There was always an entrepreneurial spirit within me. Even when I was getting my MBA, I took a lot of entrepreneurial classes. I'd written a lot of business cases over the years. And then it felt like this was finally the 2 things aligning of like, how can I go help people be a coach and start my own business? And so then went on that journey to leave my organization and go do that.
When I listen to your story, it sounds like holding space is really, really important to you. But there's a lot of other careers where you can hold space. For example, yes, a coach. You could have been a therapist. You could have even been a FBI hostage negotiator if you really wanted to. What about being a coach meant so much to you? What aligned with you?
even in my coaching practice, I work through a framework of like, it's your body first, understanding the language of your body, your beliefs, changing behaviors, and then really becoming the person that you want to be and going after the goals that you said. What I love about being a coach is the transformation and the time that you can do it. So I think about coaches is how do we collapse time and how do we as adults get really clear on what we want so that we can start going after that. And I feel like as adults, most of us just kind of stop. It's like in high school, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to get into this school. I picked chose the major. I got the job. I did the things. And then we're just kind of, I don't want to say coasting because like we're not doing anything. We're working very hard, but it's not always very mindful. And what
Mhm.
I love about coaching is like almost going back to that childhood wonder of like, what dreams did you set down? If you could do anything, what would you want to do? And then really helping people in a safe place shed those layers of like, oh, I can't do that anymore, or it's too late, or, I should have done this years ago. And then really help them see that there's always a new possibility if we want to take it. And so there's something about that human connection in that coaching relationship that I love, and getting that other person to a place where they are confident and thriving that I really love.
I'm kind of curious, right? Like, as you've kind of gone solo with your coaching practice, everybody talks about ideal client profiles, right? And so, how did you kind of find out, or what was the process like deciding who you want to help and the problems that you help them with?
Yes, and I love this question, especially being 2 years in, because
Mhm.
it was not always the easiest for me to answer this question. So I'm going to answer it in two parts. So I predominantly work with high achieving women who really are tired
Mm.
of pushing and proving, and they want more success with more ease. I love working with them on that because it is 100% possible. And you go back to your original question of when I started, I was just like, I don't know. I want to be a coach. So where do I go? And of course, every expert's like, you got to niche down, you got to niche down. And I'm like, okay, okay. And so I really started a lot with my former contacts. I had 20 years of working experience before I started my own business. So it was a lot of people from that original university. It was old colleagues from other organizations that were said, hey, I know you, I trust you. I want to come work with you. And then after the end of my first year, I was running, doing all the data dive at the end of the year. And I said, and all the analysis, and I said, this is 98% higher ed, which makes sense. I had spent 10 years in higher ed and I live in Massachusetts and there's a lot of universities here. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I will just say I specialize in higher ed because and nonprofits, because I really understand the nuances of like lean teams, complicated structures, mission-based organizations, probably don't have great systems. And so just the nuance and the complications that go with that. I announced that in January of this year. And then by late January of this year, a lot of that funding was being moved around, things were changing. That actually still worked for a while, but then as the year has gone on, I'm like, you know what? I do know a lot about higher ed and nonprofits, but it really is the high achieving women aspect that I get really, really excited about. And so that's where, and for even all the newer coaches, was told once, sometimes you can't pick the niche finds you. And that feels very true to me because I never felt in the beginning, it felt not that it felt constrictive to me. I was like, well, I could work with lots of different types of people. It has just emerged by taking action and by doing the coaching where I feel the most connection with high
Mm.
achieving women. So that's how and where I got to this point.
It kind of sounds like you were kind of your own target demographic
Yes,
in this case. Yeah.
you are not wrong on
Interesting.
that. Yes.
Just out of curiosity, too, what are some of the challenges that high achieving women like yourself go through that I guess men don't go through or men might not realize?
Yes, I actually think men do as well. I think to your point, there's
Mhm.
just some different language around it. And for many women, it is taking on this, I'll say, persona at work of I have to have all the answers. I have to know what I'm talking about. I need to answer every email. I need to be up late every night preparing for the next day. With that, and then if many of them are wives, mothers, right, then there's like this other workload. And then we get into this place of nothing feels good. I feel like I'm failing at home and at work. There's not enough time to do all the things. And so what I find is many women up until about age 35 kind of have this like perfectionist, like if as long as it's perfect, as long as everything's completely buttoned up, everything I will still see success. and let's just say the home life is more intense at 35 than maybe it was at 25, then it's like, oh, well, I can't be up as late as I used to be, or I have other demands. I have other things that I want to do that I enjoy. And then it's also like learning the new skills of what does it look like if you're not the one who answers every single email? What does it look like if you're not the one that immediately knows the answer? And so it's almost a softening of what got them to their success is now not the thing that will keep them up on that upward trajectory that they so usually really, really want and have worked really hard for and have all the knowledge, all the experience, all the degrees to support it. Of just
Mm.
how can we just be our confident selves and let our presence and our confidence presence speak for us? And how do we communicate more clearly and prioritize and really be okay with letting the smaller things go, saying no to things? And a lot of times this is brand new behaviors. I think women feel it more poignantly than men do in many cases.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. Yeah, definitely. I do feel like men kind of go through a very similar type of thing in a different context, but it's very interesting hearing your perspective on that. Now, I did want to ask you, right? Like, okay, so since your target is high achieving women, we kind of understand or kind of see the challenges that they go through. How are people finding out about you? What does the marketing aspect like look like? And this is going to be interesting because you mentioned that you had a marketing background, so I'm very curious about this.
Yes, a lot of what I do is through my existing network. And then I continue with my existing network, even just locally within Chamber of Commerce. I do public speaking. I also, in higher ed, women led consortiums that I will put myself in. I do really enjoy being in person. So that feels fun to me. And then I also have my digital marketing presence, which for me, it's mostly LinkedIn and it is LinkedIn and YouTube, and then my newsletter. How do I keep putting my thoughts and beliefs out there about how I think women can gain the success that they want and do it in a more easeful way? And so that is what brings people into my world. And then I find, and then they can follow me on YouTube and get to know me a little bit better. I will do some podcasts here and there, right? And so, and then once they're in
Yeah.
my world, I find that I often feel like I'm just this bridge between I know how intense it is, and I also know what else is possible. And like, come on this journey with me. I can help walk you through that journey.
Sounds like it's quite a bit of work to be on all those platforms and all those real life events as well. Kind of curious, do you have a team right now in your business helping you with all this?
Right now, it is me. I'm in a pretty good rhythm of I don't say yes to every single external marketing event or external networking event. I'm in a pretty good rhythm of when I'm out publicly, when I'm coaching, when I'm working on my digital presence. But I also find a lot of that is for me is I guess because over the 2 years I've really honed like what I'm talking about. Like I find that it just comes out of me. It's very intuitive, and a lot of it is my prior working experience. I do it because I love it, but I also don't find that I spend an inordinate amount of time on it.
Okay. So people are finding about your services, maybe these in real life events, or maybe they see one of your posts. So I'm sure they're raising their hands up for a coaching engagement. I'm very curious, like, what does a typical coaching engagement look like for you? Like, I know some coaches, they do one-on-one, some do group. Like, what are you doing, and what have you tried in the past?
So I'm in three different buckets. I have one-on-one coaching, I have coaching programs, and then when I'm working within organizations, also typically within a group coaching program for a group of leaders. In my one-on-one and even in my group, those largely run in 6-month packages. And
Yeah.
I find that that is enough time for us to build trust, get to know each other, but then also really practice those new behaviors and get people to the point where it's like they can continue to self coach themselves if needed, or some of them will, and actually quite a few of them renew at the end of that. In the organizational work, I often set it up similarly. I'm not as open to, I'll say short term. I find that I need at least 3 months to really start to make a change, but I find 6 months is my sweet spot of when we can make the most of, like when we can really get the transformation and people can self lead from that point.
What do you feel like it is the magic of 6 months? Why not like 5 or 7 or 8? Like, what's the magic in 6?
I mean, it's a nice round number other than that, but I find 3 is too short. Exactly to your point. It actually tends to be more of a 5-month program that it's like, I'm on vacation this week, you're on vacation this week. So I round up and say it's more or less a
Mm,
6-month engagement, but it's in that 5 to 6 months. We're shedding old beliefs, things that aren't working for us, things that we've done in the past. And then we are, as we believe, like there is a new possibility and we're trying on these new behaviors. It's that safe place to practice, to be like, hey Megan, this happened the other day at work. I'm not sure that I handled it the right way. Okay, we're not going to catch it every time. Okay, good job there. Let's refine a little bit. And then really getting them to that point of like they're really in that new identity, really in that becoming. And I find that that's the end of the 5 months into the 6 months, where it's
I see.
really part of their actual identity, where they're like, oh, okay,
Mm,
I now prioritize effortlessly. I now stand up for myself more at work. I communicate so much more clearly. I can delegate to my team so much more effortlessly. I find that those behaviors they just naturally come out when the person feels more aligned.
I'm sure you're having a lot of these conversations, especially if it's like one-on-one and group, right? A lot of people are asking for your time and attention. And earlier in the podcast, you also mentioned that you don't say yes to everything as well. And so when it comes to your client capacity, right, how do you kind of manage it? Are you doing everything yourself right now? You mentioned the marketing side, but on the coaching side, are you doing everything yourself right now? Do you have other coaches working for you at the moment?
No other coach is working for me at the moment.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I'm looking at in this third year is even just how, especially with the organizational work, of how can I more clearly assess that for me. I love the organizations, I think largely because that's where I come from. And I find, there's multiple decision makers. Often at times it's usually a longer process than the people that are coming to work with me directly. And so finding like, is this for me, I'm working on how do I ensure that this is the right fit for me, given the time constraints of how much work that requires. And so it's always editing as an entrepreneur, which is
Mm.
part of what keeps it interesting and part of why I love it.
One of the other things I would love your take on as well, since you have these three different type of offers, right? Coaching offers. What I've noticed is that a lot of coaches, they actually struggle with things like pricing. And money in the coaching world sometimes is a big taboo. Obviously, you don't have to give any hard numbers for anything, but I would love to kind of hear like the process of how you structured your pricing, because some people they do hourly, other people do packages, some do projects, some do value based, some do retainer, right? There's so many different models. So which ones have you kind of gravitated to over the years?
I predominantly do package-based pricing, and
Mm.
a fellow coach told me right when I got started, she was like, set it at a place where you feel comfortable saying it out loud and you don't feel like you want to throw up in your mouth, but also enough money that it's not bare bones. And
Mm.
so that is how I started with these 6-month packages, and that my rates have gone up, in the years that I've been in business. And I just adjust as I continue to learn. Like I'm constantly still investing in myself in my own education. And so as I feel like I'm honing my skills and I am a powerful coach, I also raise my prices. I do after people do complete an initial practice or initial package, then I will find a lot of my clients will move on to a more retainer based, like year-long package. And that also works for me. It's like we've done the initial hard work together, and that's more maintenance work, but that is not something that I offer after until people have gone through the initial package with me together.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the questions I have is about your future goals. Where do you want this coaching business to take you in the next few years? Do you have like desires to scale, desires to hire more people, secret dreams or ambitions no one knows about?
Maybe late 2026, maybe early 2027, but there is definitely a women's retreat in my future. And I would also like to run like more than one, like create a mastermind and run that twice in a year. And so who are these high achieving women, right, that I'm calling in to do that? And I have a lot of ideas how I see that, how the other things that I would want to incorporate that are in addition to what I typically have in my package right now. And we would have more space in the mastermind to explore some of these other topics.
How about your team? Do you like keeping this kind of like more solo, or do you have dreams to like hire more coaches?
Yeah, I am very open to it. And I also just think intuitively I'll know
Hmm.
when it's time to get there. And so
Yeah.
I don't necessarily say like, oh, in year 3, this is how it has to be. I think I will know just based off of what I'm attracting in when it would be time to bring on more people. And I'm very, very open to that. led teams for a long, long time. I love working with people. And I will say right now, while I'm figuring out, I wouldn't say figuring out, I'm past figuring out, but as I continue to refine, I do enjoy doing that
Mm.
without the added pressure of like, oh, and I already have this other person.
Another thing I'm also curious about too, as you reflect on your journey so far, what are some challenges or bottlenecks that you're kind of noticing in your coaching business? Maybe some unexpected ones that have come up for yourself.
Yes, I would say the biggest thing for me in the beginnings, I do love systems. I'm definitely a people person, but I like things to run cleanly in the background, even if I'm not the one to do them. And so I had heard when I first got started was like just invest in, right, like all the big systems, right? Like get ClickFunnels, get this, get right, just so like so as you scale, like you're already there. And so in my very beginning, I was like, okay, let me get all the bigger ones. And then I realized in the beginning that I was actually doing more B2C, or sorry, more B2B than I was doing B2C because it was a lot of my former contacts. And so like these are not people that are going through funnels. Like these are people we're literally on the phone and like, hey, I've known you forever. I know you're gonna be great. Can we get this started? And so I basically had to dismantle a lot of the things that I had started with and then really just go for more simple, I'll even say more simple and user friendly and less expensive systems because I was like, oh, I'm not actually in this full B2C world where like, there's like millions of people hitting my page and right, we need to like funnel them all the way through. And so is that like a total misstep? No, but I think it also came from this desire of I want things to look professional and feel clean and have a good customer experience. And then as I've evolved, where, my first 2 years or like my first 18 months, I really was mostly B2B. And now I'm getting more B2C that like my systems will continue to evolve. And that's where, as far as like hiring the right virtual assistants or the right contractors has really come into play to help me get those set up.
Speaking about systems, one thing I am very, very curious about is people's business investments. So if you're open to it, I would love to play a
Yeah.
game with you.
Yeah.
A lot of coaches, a lot of entrepreneurs, we invest into things like coaching, training, marketing, team members, masterminds, maybe even ClickFunnels or some software like that too. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to prompt a phrase and you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind, right?
Okay.
And if there's a story, you feel free to share the story as well. Okay?
Sounds good.
There's four of these. First one, first business investment you ever remember making.
First one was a mastermind. I had not started my business yet, but it was like a senior woman within my coaching school who was running a mastermind outside of the coaching school for those of us who wanted to start our own businesses. And she was integral for me launching because it had more to do with the mindset of what it takes to launch. There were some nuts and bolts about sales and marketing, but it was mostly about mindset. And I still, to this day, am not sure that I would have launched had I not invested in that. That was one of the best investments I made.
I love it. Last business investment you made.
Well, I am going to get certified in somatic breathwork next week in Texas. So that is something adding to what I do. So that is one. I also, if you're looking more from a coaching standpoint, I have a human design business coach in the UK that I've been working with for most of this year, but I just re-upped. So that's why. And that has been one of the most supportive things of how do I align my business to the way that I also want to live my life and the way that I show up in the world. And she's been incredibly helpful in doing that.
Next one. These might overlap a little bit, but best business investment you made.
I'm going to go with my human design coach. Can I do two? My human
Sure.
design business coach is one as a projector. That has helped me not listen to like all these huge people where I'm like, nope, that doesn't make sense to me. Nope, that feels like too much. That feels like that's not me. So that has really helped me feel just more authentic to the business that I'm building. There's another woman in the UK, Gemma Gilbert, who is just a marketing genius. And she has really helped like pinpoint like who it is, what are you doing, and how do you share like your beliefs around that in a very authentic way. And so between the two of them, I think those are my two favorite investments.
I love that. Okay, let's move on to quite the cheeky one.
Okay.
Worst business investment you kind of wished you got your money back from.
Yeah. All right. I knew you were going to ask me this, and I truly don't have one that's like, this was awful. I would never do this again. There was one that I will say that was geared more towards 55-year-old women, like on social media for the first time. And it was, so in some ways it was really helpful because it was like nuts and bolts of like, literally, this is how you do this. I took some good things out of it,
Yeah.
and I probably didn't need to pay that much to learn those lessons. the woman herself who runs it is very authentic. And I think for the right person, right? I think if I were a 55-year-old, it would have been perfect. But
Yeah.
always on me. I could have done a little bit more research.
Seems like maybe right solution, probably wrong time. Like,
Yes.
yeah. As you're sharing these stories, I'm sure certain things are popping up in your mind. And I'm kind of curious, how has your decision making process changed and what to invest in and what not to invest in over the years?
I love this question because I think as a new entrepreneur, right, there's so many people coming at you. Like your inbox just gets filled with sales calls. That's something that no one told me, and I didn't realize that. And so, in the beginning, it's like, is it a community? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it courses? Is it group? Right? And so, and everyone's telling you that their model is the best. So I was fairly liberal in my first year of like at least jumping on, like, is it the webinar that they're offering? Is it the 2-day thing? I could look back now and be like, was that a waste of time? And actually, I don't think it was because it really helped me hone. No, for me, it is one-on-one coaching and it is group coaching because it really is coaching and it's not course design. Yes, can I walk into organizations and give them 85 ways of how to improve retention and their culture? And yes, I can. But at the end of the day, if they also don't want to invest in coaching, like that's really probably not the right client for me. And so all of those, I'll say, free courses from these larger, from these larger creators was helpful for me to figure out what was important to me.
I love that. Okay, last segment. I call this section overrated, underrated. So, as a
Okay.
business owner, you've probably gotten a lot of advice. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it solicited, probably like 99% of it unsolicited. And so, what's the most overrated piece of business advice you've gotten so far? And what's the most underrated?
Overrated that you have to name your niche right away and like the promise of transformation. I go back to we all come from like a set of expertise and skills, but also a world where we likely have contacts. And like there's nothing wrong with starting with the people you know and helping to figure out, oh, this really lights me up, or like this feels like it's a little bit more work or a little bit more of a drain than I thought it would be. And that you can take, I don't want to say take forever because certainly as you want to build and scale, like as you refine that, that becomes more and more important. But in the very, very beginning, not to get so overwhelmed with naming that and just really speaking to the people that you already know. That was the overrated piece of advice.
I mean, I feel like sometimes people might have this connotation of sales where it just feels kind of like, I don't know, I don't know why this word came up, but icky about like talking to people that they know. What is a kind of like a not like a way to approach people to engage in a conversation without like being too abrasive to the people that you know? Because some of these relationships, maybe people really care about it and they have that fear. How would you best suggest that person to approach?
Right. At the end of the day, the person still needs to have a need or something that they want to be different, right? Most people aren't going to invest, unless they want to change something or unless they want something to be different. So it is just saying, hi, right? This is what I do. Would that be helpful to you? And if they say, no, then we move on. If it's like, you know what, I'm a little bit curious. Can we talk about this more? Then to me, it's just about having the most authentic conversation of like, this is what I do. Is there something here that would help serve you? And it's really just being yourself and also being in your own gifts and your own strengths of like not trying to overpromise or not trying to be all things to all people. I guess I am pretty comfortable about saying no, like this is not a good fit when I know that it's not a good fit because I guess I've learned also as an entrepreneur, like it takes a lot of effort to deliver for a client that you don't feel really aligned with. And so I would rather, I guess I just stand in the belief that like something better will come along that does feel like it will be more easeful. I mean, I'm teaching women how to like get more success by being more easeful. That I have learned like it just is easier to say no if it doesn't feel right.
Thank you for that. Let's move on to the underrated piece of advice.
It is important to be in some sort of rhythm, whether you do it by like days of the week or you do it like in time blocks. This is what I do, in the mornings, but how are you structuring when you're doing client delivery, when you're doing marketing and or writing, however that works, and then when you are doing business development and letting one of those pieces completely overtake another because let's say you get really busy with client delivery in a particular season, but then all your business development goes down. It is important to stay in a pretty consistent rhythm. And there's like so much focus sometimes on like revenue and scaling that we can really get upside, and then we get all the clients, and then we can get really upside down on keeping that consistency going.
Last question for you. How can people find you and connect with you?
Yes, I am very easy to find on LinkedIn at Megan Akatu. Also my website at meganakatu.com, and on YouTube at Megan Akatu Coaching.
You know, Megan, something that really sticks out to me during this podcast is, one, I found someone who's also really into human design and breath work and stuff, which was pretty funny. Very unexpected, but quite nice. Your journey about like trying to discover your target market that worked for you. And I think a lot of times people have this pressure to just hit it right on the first try. But it was really interesting how you kind of like did that reflection. You tried like higher ed and nonprofits, but then you realized, oh, it's really high achieving women, which was kind of like yourself from the very, very beginning. I also just really want to thank you for all the business advice, because you broke down kind of the packages that you offer, how you think about pricing, which is a very taboo subject in coaching. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I think the last piece of advice that you were talking about with the rhythm is so underrated. And there's something about that where you're just in flow and everything will take care of itself. Like, I think that's well appreciated. Anyways, Megan, this is my very long way of just saying that thank you for your work. The work that you do matters. And I appreciate you coming on a podcast and just sharing all your knowledge. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. This has been so fun.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.